Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview. In this episode, we are talking with Shub Nandi, founder of PiChain. PiChain is a RegTech company with a mission to make compliance sustainable. It develops deep tech systems that can provide proactively learn, solve, and automate compliance problems for financial institutions using artificial intelligence and blockchain. Shub, welcome to our show today.
Thanks, Boris. Thank you so much for extending your invitation, and I'm glad that today I am in your show.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate your time and look forward to our conversation. Shub, could you tell us a short story of how you started PiChain and what are you guys up to these days?
Uh, well, uh, well, the goal is to primarily build an enterprise, right, that will last really long and have many satisfied customers, rich investors, and happy employees. So that was the whole goal that we had as we ventured into entrepreneurship. But PiChain was conceived by me and my two co-founders, right, Prasanna Padmanabhan and Venkat. So our goal was very focused. So we understand the domain of primarily which comes into the area of GRC, which is the governance, risk, and compliance, and we could see that specifically in the area of compliance there were many gaps. So we understand that most of the evolving and futuristic technologies like AI, machine learning, distributed ledger technology, all these technologies which has great potential and can impact in a better way the compliance industry. So coming from the background, we understand where the gaps are, and the goal was primarily to ensure that how we can ensure this particular space, which is compliance and regulation, right, can be made more explainable, easy, and ensure that the whole process of compliance becomes sustainable. Now, for us, right, sustainable compliance has got three key attributes, right? So first thing is to increase the compliance confidence score of the bank, financial institution, or the fintech that you're working with. The next is primarily to efficiently use the regulatory capital, and number three is the most important, which is to reduce the cost of compliance. Now, if you can do all these three things, basically repeat all these three things year on year, that means we have made something sustainable, and that's sustainability is something which you want to provide to compliance. We have a ambitious goal, which is primarily to help 500 large enterprises, right, to attain sustainable compliance by end of 2025.
All right, fascinating. And so, what your company does in relation to compliance specifically? What is your best type of the customer? And could you tell us perhaps how you differ from other providers operating in the space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think let me start with a bit on the challenges, right? So we already know there are a lot of compliance and regulatory software providers in the market, right? But let me also give some statistics, right? So number one is globally less than 1% of the illicit transfers are being brought to light, and roughly an estimated amount of if you talk about the estimated amount of money laundered per year is roughly US 1 trillion. Uh, that's quite a big amount of money. Uh, Number two, right? Why do we have compliance and regulatory softwares? Compliance and regulatory softwares are basically implanted in banks and financial institutions primarily to ensure that the whole system become compliance, and they don't face any penalties, they don't face any punitive actions against them. But if I talk about the whole process, right? So regulatory fines imposed on banks, financial institution for compliance lapses stood to over US 450 billion, right? If we start from the last meltdown till now, right? So that's a huge amount of money, right? Which banks and financial institutions. I'm just talking about primarily the developed and the progressive nations, right? So we have the data for them, and that's roughly 450 billion. Now, I mean, these are two standardized data globally available, but let's get inside into one of the processes of the bank, right? Let's talk about a bit about the AML transactions or AML screening alerts the bank gets, right? Now, there is a problem there as well, right? So banks typically handle roughly 1.4K AML alerts on a daily basis, right? Interestingly, 97% of them are false positive. And when I'm talking about AML alerts, a bank, I'm talking about only a branch, right? It can have multiple branches, and imagine how many alerts are generated. I mean, 97% of them are false positives. That means you still have to triage all these AML alerts, which is a huge number, right? Now, if you are primarily triaging so many alerts, you are primarily wasting a lot of your money, a lot of your productive resources. So which is a huge loss for the bank, right? Now, if we go into a little bit details, right? So why uh, penalties happen, why even with such large compliance teams, right? Why we cannot stop money laundering, why we are unable to triage the right one and basically stop any form of money laundering, even frauds, right? So let's talk about the day of the life of a compliance officer, right? So a compliance officer, he or she, has to deal with roughly 12 IT and non-IT systems to solve a single case of when he or she primarily tries to try something. Unfortunately, all this data is in different formats, so the person has an additional responsibility to harmonize this data. Now, with this, there are changing regulations because if you see the regulatory bodies, right? So every 6 months to every 2 year, right? So they typically keep on changing the regulations to prevent organized frauds, money laundering, and alike, right? So they have to keep themselves abreast of the changes, right? So even for the best SME in compliance, he or she has to spend 80% of the time in gathering data, converting them into insights, seeing that they're aligned with the regulation, and this decision has got also a lot of liability on the person. So that's why the biggest challenge happens that banks finally, because of the shortage of manpower, even with large teams, they go for random checking or random compliance checks. And also there are times when the deadlines are missed, right? So with all these challenges, right, why we could understand because we were part of the system, and as we were part of the system, we could understand those challenges, and we brought in the right systems, right? When it comes to PiChain, we built in a system called DeepPi, which typically understands a compliance process like a human being and tries to triage it like a human being, but at a larger scale, understanding more data in real time and make better decisions. So that's typically the advantage that we provide, and ensure that the compliance cases are solved at a lower cost. Also, because the systems are very robust. The second most important thing is that we understand that if you have legacy rule-based systems, right, which are currently present, they will generate a lot of false positives. But if you have a secondary scoring system, like how DeepPy provides, it can quickly remove all those false positives and help the compliance officer to focus only on the real cases, which are frauds or which are the cases of money laundering. So that's the way we provide benefit to
Okay.
banks, financial institutions.
Fascinating, interesting. So, in many industries, COVID-19 has accelerated the move to digital transformation. As Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella put it, we saw 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. What changes are you seeing in the market, especially now in this COVID era? Can you tell us how your clients are impacted by the crisis, and what organizations will need to do in order to adapt?
Right. I think a lot of things have changed during the COVID period. I mean, thankfully, the good part was that we never had understanding that COVID would be coming, but we understood one thing very clearly, and that's the world is going to be completely uh, uh, going forward in a digital direction. So we understanding that made digital as our key methodology to solve any use case when it comes to compliance. So let me talk a bit about lending, right? So in lending, you typically have a lender and then there is a borrower. The lender and the borrower typically have to interact. Now if they have to interact, the borrower has to come down to the lender's place to first have the first interaction. So what we have done over here is we have made that part digital with our video KYC solution or a video interaction solution. So first comes our video interaction solution where the lender and the borrower meets digitally. The next part is primarily where the different documentation happens, right? So if the borrower likes the lender and the lender in turn feels confidence on the borrower and they see that okay, we can go ahead. So the next step is primarily the KYC process, right? So in KYC process today, I mean, there are multiple ways that things were done today, right? Especially we saw it in the European region as well as in the India region mainly, where things were not that much digital, right? So what we did over here is that we ensured that the whole forms, KYC forms, KYC data, everything is digitized, right? So we have interactive forms, smart forms, advisory forms, which ensures different genre of people who are coming as a borrower can quickly fill those forms. As a next step, you have the complete KYC process, which you have also completely automated, which means that you don't need to go to the lender and the borrower can meet digitally, like how we are meeting over Zoom. We have a platform which is a secured KYC platform, video KYC platform, where we have ensured that the documents, the details, the way the Q&A happens, everything is annotated, stored. We also get the behavioral data and also create the risk matrix. So that's the third part to it. After that, once the person is inside the system, then there has to be a set of processes like an agreements, which has to be a spin-off. You have in India, we have something called stamp papers, which legalizes these agreements. So you have ensured that this whole journey is digital. So essentially what we have done is that we have made this whole process, which unfortunately got serious or severely impacted due to COVID, completely digital. So now the lender and the borrower can meet digitally, complete the whole process, build the trust, and then go ahead with finalization of how or what would be the amount of they would be lending, or at what rates the lending would happen, and how probably the payments will be done by the borrower. So that's one of the use case. So like this, what we understand here is that COVID has accelerated digitization, and we have built a system which is end-to-end into the digital space. So we are seeing a lot of interest into our product, both in India and the European region. So COVID is an unfortunate event, which is not great or not at all good for the humanity. But from a business perspective, what we are seeing is that people are becoming more smarter. They're going digital, and that's where our solutions are impacting and helping them to make it completely digital and still run their business during these very tough times.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you some personal opinion on some questions. For example, what is so fascinating for you about financial compliance, and what is a commonly held belief as it that relates to compliance that you are passionately disagree with, or what is the common, or what you want to debunk some kind of myth in the compliance area?
Right. I think one of the key thing when I talk to many people, so we understand that whatever you do, compliance is considered as a black box. So unfortunately, regulations vis-a-vis how it is implemented, vis-a-vis how the whole process of checks happens, right? Unfortunately, it is considered as a black box. So that's something which we fortunately, with the new systems and technology in place, we say that okay, this is no more a truth, right? The reason being that if you have deployed the right systems in place, compliance is no more a black box. It can be made explainable. And the reason we also want to tell people here is that there is no more need of doing random compliance checks. You can thoroughly do the compliance checks from end to end, and your compliance checks are not directly proportional to the size of your compliance teams. So this is one of the biggest myth which is there, and which are trying to primarily change and take the whole journey of GRC ahead.
All right, right. Very interesting. And so, your personal opinion and why you are busy with this area of expertise. And I wonder, what tips do you have for compliance managers to help their organizations to stay on course during this crisis? For example, what's something that they should start doing right now that they are not doing currently, or perhaps another way around, what they should stop doing right now, what they are doing currently?
Right. I think one of the key thing here is that I think compliance officers, I mean, they have a process in place, right, which includes going to multiple systems and spending a lot of time on multiple different systems, getting the data, and then making decisions, right? So I think compliance officers are the best people to make decisions because they have the whole knowledge experience of a particular case. Now what they can do over here is that the amount of time they spend on gathering this information, they can probably take help of technology to help gather the information and also augment them with insights, right? So uh, so probably from a from if we just talk about a screening perspective, right, you don't need to have a system, right, which has got which is where you probably do a AML PAP screening and you just put in the name, and then you have to navigate to 15 different pages to find out whether this is the right person or not. So in those cases, very valuable time of the compliance officer is getting wasted. I mean, that's where probably a compliance officer can bring in some of the advanced technologies which are available in the market, right, and augment himself or herself with those newer technologies, and then do best at what he or she is, which is making decisions. The novel decisions can never be taken up by an AI or any of the advanced solutions. That would definitely come from a human being. But making oneself equipped with all the decision points, that's what technology is going to provide, the augmenting the compliance officer. So I would request and probably suggest compliance officers primarily to use technology to their advantage more and more. That will have two benefits. First, they will have a peaceful I mean peaceful day, because they will save a lot of the time and also ensure that the thing is correct. Other thing is that once they save a lot of time, they have enough time for their friends and family, and probably that would help them, I mean, to have a better work-life balance, right? So yeah, I mean, those are the two key things I would probably like to suggest.
Uh-huh. So, looking broadly in your industry, what are biggest challenges and future trends in AML and compliance? What are the major trends in your space? And what should we expect from you guys in the future?
Right. I think what we did here is that right from beginning of 2019, right, we did we have been iteratively doing a massive survey, right? We surveyed roughly 300 compliance officers in the who are primarily in the job of ensuring that their organizations are compliant, right? So we understood that I mean three challenges which are definitely going to stay. One is regulations will be different in different geographies, And for a chief compliance officer of an organization, that's one of the major challenge, because every geography will see changing regulations and different regulations. They have to keep on getting adapted to that. So that would be one challenge. Second would be the organized financial frauds, which will definitely, the fraudsters are becoming smarter day by day. And with today everything becoming digital, you would see a mix of smart cyber fraudsters, right? So you have to stay ahead of them in the game. And of course, I mean, in this process they have to take care of the cost of compliance, right? The cost of compliance need not go higher, and yet the whole organization is compliant. So we see these three areas as which is primarily going to keep on changing, right? And we understand that only smarter systems can tackle these areas. For example, how can you stay ahead of the fraudster, right? So you need to think like a fraudster and then understand how you can prevent it. So you need to have those kind of systems, right, which are smarter, cognitive in nature, and probably things like a human being, and helps the human being to make better decisions. So those are the areas we are going to focus, and we'll keep on investing. So a lot of our investment goes into research and development, and build systems which are resilient for the future.
Mhm. Fantastic. So summarizing, if someone who is listening to this interview would like to walk away with one or two major takeaways, what would it be?
Well, I think I have given it all. I think the first thing is that let's start believing in technology, and understand that the new normal is digitization. So we need to start adopting it quicker and faster. The next most important thing is that let's try to go back and see what are the set of activities we are doing, right? And if some of the activities are repetitive in nature and probably can be, and can probably be the reason which is causing a lot of stress in our daily lives, right? And probably those can be offloaded to a system, right? I think the third most important thing is that is always to be in a state of curiosity, because I initially in my career I didn't start as a person into compliance, but compliance quickly I started learning, experiencing, because I had a very big curiosity around this. So curiosity in compliance and curiosity in technology is something which I see one of the key basically behaviors. If you have, you're definitely going to learn new things, and also master them slowly, right? So yeah.
Okay, Shub, thank you very much for your interview. I think it was very informative and very useful for our members. And I wish your company, PiChain, very high growth and reach your goals of 500 customers in a few years. And wish you good luck, and hope we will hear from you in the future from your company.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Boris. I'm glad that you invited me and we had this wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.